Hippopotamus here, and today I'm going to be showing you my Oxpecker striker build. This is my take on how I use the Oxpecker. Some people may have different ways of using it. This is the way that I like to use it. So let's get into the build, and I'll start the usual way. For this build I am using the firewall, and there's really a couple of things in here that are important. Everything else is kind of just sort of extra niceties. So the main important parts really is just the medkit. That gives you 200% over 10 seconds. Sort of like having armor regeneration for 10 seconds. Should you take damage, you're going to continue on healing. The striker shield is useful because it gives people behind you a little area to shoot from, which gives them more damage as you're going to be pushing in quite hard. It also gives you a little bit more damage and has more health, and those that little mod that gives you extra 8% extra health is going to be useful to us because every last little drop of health for the shield is going to be helpful. The other things to note really is just that these talents are helpful. The bonus armor cover to cover if your shield's down could be helpful, or if you're at low health. The firewall tack link, meaning that enemies that are near you, within 10 meters of you, the allies deal 10% extra damage to. Helpful. And on armor break in PvP, disabled in PvP, obviously, is that it sets your targets on fire. That was available in PvP some time ago, but got removed because it was just point blank really annoying. However, this is going to be helpful in PvE, is because if your shield goes down and then you lose all your armor, it's going to set a target on fire, possibly give you a chance to run away, something that would be helpful, and that is increased by the burn duration. That's going to make them burn for a little bit longer. Again, we can use the specialization weapon here, but the other thing is just the synergizing weapons, which is the SMG and the shotgun that we're using in this case. So let's go take a look at the build. Hopefully this will make some sense to you. So, to start off with, I'm using the lefty, and the lefty is used for a very specific reason. That is because it helps us build striker stacks. It's reasonably important. Again, I could use a lefty, but in this particular case, I would prefer to have sledgehammer. So if I have this out, I can mark enemies with sledgehammer. What this does is it's been changed. So if you throw a grenade, it will mark a target and they'll take 20% more damage to their armor from the agent that marked them. This used to be to everybody, like everyone that was see the mark, they would do damage. Now it's just for you, which has changed a lot. It also slows them down a little bit by 30%, so it's useful. It's going to be helpful if we're up against bigger targets that we need that extra little bit of damage from. So obviously mine's rolled with shotgun damage, damage to armor, and damage to targets out of cover. So that's the reason behind the lefty. So, star of the show, the Oxpecker. This is a high risk, high reward weapon, I would say, in the way that I've used it. I've not managed to get to rank 10, so no expertise yet. And mine is rolled with SMG damage, crit chance, and damage to targets out of cover. So the talent symbiosis, what this does is basically when you deploy your shield, you lose shield health at a rate of 10% per second. And your shield receives repairs of 25% of the damage dealt by this weapon. So that says two things to me. We need the shield to be as strong as possible, and we also need to be able to deal as much damage as possible. So, with that in mind, this build tries to incorporate as much of that as possible. But just before we go any further, let's just take a look at the pistol. I'm using the orbit here just to gain a little bit of extra crit chance, crit damage, should I need it. It's not always the case, but sometimes can be useful. And this particular one is rolled with pistol damage and crit damage. Okay, so onto the build. Starting off with my brand set, I'm using a piece of Cheska, and this gives us 8% crit chance. I've rolled the core attribute to 170,000 armor, and we have 6% crit chance, 12% crit damage, and we also have an 11.9, unfortunately not 12, but a 11.9 crit hit damage. On to the second piece, and it's the exotic. This is the memento. Now, this is where this is going to tie in with the damage and the shield having more health part. What this is going to do is it's going to not only give us a weapon damage core, an armor core, and a skill tier, so that's going to give us 2 towards having a rank 2 shield, because 1 armor core and 1 skill tier. We also have a crit damage mod popped in there, but also with the talent, obviously if we get kill confirmed, I think most people understand how this works now, but in effect what this does is for every tag that you pick up, it gives you 5% weapon damage for each red core that you have, us having 2. It gives us 10% bonus armor for each blue core we have 5, so 50% bonus armor, and we have 1 yellow core, so 5% skill efficiency. Skill efficiency is everything, so skill haste, skill health, skill healing skill, etc., etc. So this is going to give us a slightly stronger shield, just ever so slightly, nothing too much to write home about, but something that will help us. And then for every trophy that we collect, we're going to gain an additional 1% weapon damage, 1% skill efficiency, and 0.1% armor regeneration, up to 30. So this is going to give us extra damage. It's also going to give us skill efficiency, and it's going to give us 3% armor regen underneath all of that. So as if having enough weapon damage and everything else wasn't enough, we're also going to get that all-important armor regen. So for our 4-piece striker, it goes like this. If you don't know what striker does, 2 pieces give you weapon handling, 3 pieces give you rate of fire, 4-piece gives you weapon hits increase total damage by 0.65%, stacking up to 100 times. So what's going to happen is we're going to lose 1 stack per second between 0 and 50, and 2 stacks lost between 50 and 100. So what the chess piece does for us is it increases it from 100 to 200, and you lose 3 stacks per second when you're between 100 and 200. Okay. So we also have a glove. This is rolled with an armor core and crit hit damage. Don't know if I showed off the chest piece having a crit hit damage and a crit hit damage mod, but there we go, just in case not. For the holster, we have a armor roll on the top, and we also have crit hit damage on the bottom. And what we're going to do here is just have a look at the knee pad. That's 15% weapon damage and crit hit damage on the bottom. So all this will make sense when we look at the stat sheet, no problem. Let's look at the skills. We're using a Reviver Hive. We are playing very, very aggressive, and we don't have Unbreakable. So this is something that I would say is almost compulsory. Going without it is very, very risky based on the way that we're going to play, and this is super aggressive. For the shield, we are using the special variant, the Striker, and we have the in-slot mods of health and shield health, because we want as much shield health as possible, and we have a 5% bonus per enemy. And then we have the grenades, just the cluster grenades. Again, we can chuck these out whilst we're holding the lefty and get some extra damage to armor against the enemies. So let's go look at the stat sheet and go through the build. So checking our stats, we have perfect sledgehammer on our lefty. Again, this is used to build up stacks. Symbiosis and perfect finisher. Weapon damages and crit chance amounts are as follows. Okay. Weapon damages are as follows. We have the kill confirm talent and press the advantage. We're using 1 piece of Cheska, 1 exotic piece, and 4 pieces of striker. We have 1.7 million armor. We have 100,000 health on kill. And we're also using the Reviver Hive and the shield. So, the main things to note here, let's just check the ranges on heroic, which it is that basically we have a tier 6 shield. Let's get let's say an invulnerable enemy, shall we? Just for the point of purpose here. So I'm going to set up. So what we want to do is just get our stacks. We can do this like such. So 3/4 within one magazine. 2 gets us to full. And then we can use our Oxpecker. And all we're going to do is just be very aggressive with this. Run straight up to the enemy, click it open, and shoot. Now you can see that we'll lose 10% a second. However, with the amount of damage that we have, we can easily fill that back up. So, we also have the ability to mark enemies with the lefty. Which is going to give us some more armor damage. Now what I would like to do is, because the stat sheet doesn't reflect us having the backpack, what I might do is I will finish this video by, let's see, we'll do a mission, I believe. So what we'll do is, let's go play Heroic. Most people say there isn't gameplay with most of these, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to jump off the mic, I'm going to complete this mission very quickly on my own, show off the build and how to use it, and then I'm going to look at the stat sheet again at the end just to show off the armor regeneration and some of the numbers that may have changed, and then we'll leave it there. Okay, hope you enjoyed the gameplay. Here we go.
Black Tusk are going after the Shade Node. If they get to it, just get in there and stop them.
Network access detected.
Damn, they've already reached the Shade Node. Get there as fast as you can.
I better get some ammo, actually. You will notice with this build, it is a fine balance between keeping those striker stacks up and been using the SMG, but we do need to keep those striker stacks up if we can. We do have full stacks here, so what I might do is just quickly look at the stat sheet. We have 52,000 armor regeneration. Not massive, but something all the same. So there's a couple of enemies down here that we should be able to get decent stacks off now.
They were trying to access the Shade database. Hope you stopped them in time.
Hate to interrupt, but there's another helicopter inbound. Looks like Black Tusk reinforcements.
I think it is important to say that keeping your stacks up really does help keep your shield alive. Obviously, we're not doing as much damage as an all-red build. I can completely understand that. But should we have full stacks, I feel it's perfectly possible to keep your shield alive. You just have to be mindful about how many stacks you do and don't have. That's good timing, if I did say so myself. I have to hurry up a little bit because I don't want to lose too many of these stacks.
Hostile airburst seeker mine detected. Rogue agent eliminated. System. System reactivated. Disrupted. System malfunctioning.
When we see the dogs, those are great for getting stacks, but they're also great to heal on as well. In this case, we'll get some stacks. Now we can switch. Not much health left in that one, so. But the big fat enemies, they're great for healing our shield. The little enemies that we burn through, not so much. Has anybody ever noticed that? When you run up towards them, they always jump down. Okay, we can keep this bonus for a short time. So we'll take this bonus with us to the next area. Okay, we can't. Gonna switch sooner. But maybe we'll start off with that this time, eh? How long is that bonus? Okay, just 15 seconds. Overestimated on that one.
sensitive data. But I think we're okay. Good work in there.
Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That's a bit unusual for me to do a gameplay, but I felt in this case it was kind of necessary to show off exactly how to use the shield. Remembering we do need to get those striker stacks, and we do need to be careful not to be just opening the shield at every given opportunity, only when we need it. Sometimes the shield may get low, and that is a key indicator to switch weapons and just use something else just for a short time until you see a big enough opponent that you can get quite a lot of stacks off and shoot through. But yeah, maybe I might do a legendary video with this and show that it can do legendary as well in the summit. If that's something you'd like to see, please leave a comment below. Thanks again for sticking with me, and I really appreciate your ongoing support. See you guys.